Evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. Time to call the Wednesday, November 8th, 2023 Advisory Plan Commission to order. Staff will start by noting the presence of a quorum.
Ms. Berkman?
Here.
Mr. Deck? Mr. Horke?
Here.
Mr. Johns?
Here.
Ms. Kelleher?
Here.
Mr. Maui?
Here.
Mr. Schmitz?
Here.
And Ms. Spoljaric.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. There are no changes to our published agenda. Time to move on to approval of the minutes of our October 16th, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion regarding these minutes? Anyone?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the APC meeting on October 16th, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion from Andre Maui, seconded by Jenny Kelleher to approve the minutes. We are all present, so we can do this on a voice vote. Everybody in favor of approving these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are approved. Staff will review the rules and procedures for tonight's items of business. There are no public hearings.
Yes, so for this evening, that's correct. We don't have any public hearing items. We do have 3 items of business. So for items that do not require a public hearing, the department will summarize the petition and highlight any changes or modifications since the item was last before the Plan Commission. The department will also describe what action, if any, is necessary to be taken. The petitioner will be given up to 15 minutes to present any changes. The commission will then act upon the petition. And that concludes our rules of procedures for this evening.
Thank you. There is no consent agenda this evening, so we move on to our first item of business, petition 2310-PUD-10, the Custom Commerce Park PUD Amendment 5. Staff can summarize, and then the petition will present.
Yep, so I'll be covering for Dane Crabtree this evening. So for the introduction, for the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is the proposed amendment to the Custom Commerce Park PUD, specific to a 5.34 acre parcel, which is the last remaining vacant lot in the Custom Commerce Park PUD. The proposal is to permit a specialty auto service and sales use, a specifically defined use within this PUD amendment. This item had its public hearing at the October 2nd APC meeting, where there were no public comments and the workshop meeting was waived. The primary objective for the petitioner given at the public hearing was to extend the Monon buffer landscaping to the south side of the parking lot, which the petitioner has done through modifications to the Monon buffer yard exhibit, which we will pull up on the screen shortly. This item is eligible for a recommendation this evening. Matt Skelton of Churchill and Antrim is present this evening to give a brief presentation, after which he will be available for questions, as will staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton. Are we turned on?
No, we are now.
Excellent. Sounds much better.
Thank you, members of the Plan Commission. For the record, my name is Matt Skelton with Churchill and Antrim, with offices at 116 North Union Street here in town. My client may be dialed in remotely, Eugene Gorin from a tropical place that you don't want to hear about right now. And our engineer is present, Jason Yoder, as well.
Considering tonight's weather, that could just be across the street.
Oh, yeah, actually today, probably.
Go ahead.
Our proposed amendment was fairly well received, I think, at the last Plan Commission meeting, the last regular meeting. I'll just provide updates, and if anybody has questions, please ask. But we were requested to add some buffering on the eastern part of the property, and there's an exhibit that, yes. And so we were asked to incorporate some additional buffering along this property line. We had an initial meeting with the engineering department just to confirm that we're able to do that. There's a lot of easement things going on in there. And we are going to have to clean some things up, but we believe we can do that. So we've incorporated that exhibit, and I think that fulfills that request. Secondly, there were some standards for the interior inventory parking area that allowed us to not have to like curb and put parking lot islands in the middle of our sales area or inventory area, and so we dialed those in more. I think the language that was in the previous version was over-inclusive, so it really just refers to the section that was problematic. So that's probably an improvement to the PUD. And then lastly, the landscaping standards. Ms. Bulgaric asked a very good question at the last meeting, and it is true that the landscaping standards that are adopted in the Custom Commerce Park PUD really aren't too much different from what you have, but there are some differences. And so we now, the way the ordinance has been restructured, defaults to modern conventional landscaping standards in the UDO, just with a couple of departures. And there was some language added to address one of some of the buffer language. It talks about the types of buffers required around disparate uses. And we're asking for this to be treated as an industrial use. And most of the use is an industrial use. And that's it. We're happy to answer any questions and would appreciate your favorable consideration.
Thank you. APC membership, do we have any questions for the petitioner or staff?
I just have one question, Matt. I mean, we talked about this last time, and the landscaping standards around industrial for buffer yards aren't much, but then you're providing the description of the monon.
Correct.
But since we don't really have an underlying standard for some of this, we talked about height. So will they follow the height of the requirement in the UDO?
Correct.
And is that understood by staff, or is that something that needs to be added?
It's stated in the PUD ordinance now.
Okay.
Guess
I missed that.
It says that except as modified below, Article 6.8 landscaping standards of the UDO shall apply to the real estate, so.
Okay, so it covers
So,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and the tree height, width, and spreads are within that 6.8 section.
right.
So that's what it would default to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Others?
I believe this might be an issue for all three of our PUDs tonight. They do not have what council wants to see in terms of a sunset type provision, so an expiration, if you will, on the zoning. So I'm going to request that you add that in.
I'm sure that's fine with my client, and I will confirm that, but this project will probably be filed for detailed development plan approval and built as early as possible next year, so there's not much exposure there.
I'd recommend putting in 5-year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Is it okay if we add that for the version at council?
I would expect so. Petitioner
Is
seems agreeable to it.
Eugene, are you dialed in by any chance? No?
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
I'm completely fine.
Okay, we're good. Thank you.
All right, so that's resolved. Will be changed for council. All right, this is in front of us for a recommendation to council. Is there someone interested in formulating that recommendation in a motion?
I will make a motion to send a positive recommendation to council for 2310-PUD-10 with the addition of a sunset clause being 5 years. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Second, or we have a motion. Is there a second for that
Second.
motion? Second. A motion from Dr. Kelleher, seconded by Cindy Spoljaric. Favorable with one amendment. If staff will please call the roll.
Ms. Berkman,
Yes.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Johns,
Yes.
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Ms. Keller,
You're not turned on.
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
and Ms. Spoljaric.
Yes.
Recommendation passes.
All right, thank you. Close some windows here. Moving on, item next is petition 2310-PUD-11, the Town Run PUD. Staff will summarize, and then the petitioner can present.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Plan Commission. For the record, I'm Lauren Gillingham with the Community Development Department. The item before you this evening is a town-run PUD covering approximately 35 acres at the northwest corner of 146 in Town Road. You guys should be pretty familiar with this. I think it's been before you in this iteration, probably 3 or 4 times. So as presented, Town Run will feature residential and neighborhood commercial uses, townhomes, single-family detached homes extending from EPCON's existing courtyards of Westfield development, which you can see on the exhibit. The development will be anchored by Lifetime Health Club and will feature commercial uses along Town Road. As discussed at the most recent workshop meeting, the applicant has added language requiring garage door variations. At least half of the garage doors must have decorative hardware, and all must have transom windows. And they've also codified the trail amenity and what that must provide. The trailhead amenity. Also added was some language allowing flexibility in the concept plan. So as you know, this site has not been entirely engineered and is subject to change pursuant to those studies. The final site layout, including the location of access points and their alignment with surrounding parcels, will be determined through the overall development plan and primary plat process, which is the next step in this process, which the applicant is planning to file for pretty soon, very early next year. Public Works and Community Development will work with the applicant to develop this plan in a way that's agreeable to all stakeholders. So this item received a public hearing at the October 2nd APC meeting and is ready for recommendation if you so choose. Matt Skelton of Church, Hiddle, and Antrim is here tonight to speak. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Skelton, floor is yours again.
I had a beautiful presentation prepared, but I don't think I need to make it. I think she did a really good job, and I can probably respond to questions. The one thing that the sunset provision is fine. I've already discussed it, so we're good with that. And just let me look at my notes here, and I'll see if there's anything that Lauren missed. See, Scott? Oh yeah. One thing that was raised earlier today was, would we be willing to commit to not providing parking between Town Road and the commercial buildings in Area 4? And the answer is yes. That's not our intention. That's not the plan. So, and then there are some standards that have been incorporated into the PUD ordinance specific to requiring the architecturally enhanced garage doors that's included in your text, and also some standards applicable to the trailhead to be constructed. In this area, and there's an exhibit included that was reviewed at the workshop as well, that details and illustratively shows what those standards will create. So with that, I'm happy to respond to any questions, and we would appreciate your positive consideration this evening.
Thank you. APC members, questions or comments for the petitioner or staff?
I have a couple questions, Matt. Number one, thank you for addressing the parking, because when I read through the PUD, it didn't say that it would be developed in substantial compliance with the plan. It said the areas would be in substantial compliance, but within the areas, things could move around.
Right.
So I think that's important, because I know Cindy and several other people wanted to make sure that the parking lot wasn't out front. And the way it's written right now, it could be.
Sure.
So if you could address that or figure out a way to do that, that would be great.
Yep, we can address that. I've discussed it with Lauren, and we can make that change between now and the Plan Commission if you are willing to send us forward with that condition.
And then one other question about your amenities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find the page. I've slept since then. 11. Okay. The bottom of page 11, it says the courtyard home shall provide a minimum of 3 of the following amenities, included but not limited to seating areas with at least 2 benches, a dog park, seating area with at least 1 bench and a pergola, and a few other things. So the way this is written, we could have 2 out of the 3 could simply be benches. I don't know how or APC feels about that. The third one would have to be a garden or a dog park, but 2 of the 3 could be just benches. And then if you go farther down, there's another area where it talks about you have to pick 2 out of the list, and again, 2 could be benches.
Yeah, and
So,
I haven't seen an EPCON project that does that.
but it could, and it might not be EPCON, so my point
Yeah,
is.
theoretically.
It's written for whoever develops it, and I hope it's EPCON, but, and I'm trying to find the other one. But that's my only concern. You have a choice of things to pick, and in one, when there are only 2 choices, it could simply be benches. And in the one where there are 3 choices, 2 of them could be benches, and the third one could be something else. So I'm not as concerned about that one, but.
Can I ask a question of our consultant?
Sure,
I think she's
please.
on the line.
Please.
Hey, Linda, are you there? Yeah.
This is Linda Maneri from EMH&T, consultant to EPCON. So I think we're fine. I think your concern is really in the townhome area. You don't want just benches, and I think we agree with that. And probably the same thing in the courtyard homes area. We may have a bench and then a bench with a pergola and garden shed, planting bed. So I think we can limit those to that. It can't be all benches. Is that what you're asking?
Basically, yeah, you have two
Yeah.
things with benches. One is just a bench and the other is 2 benches or something, and it seems like one of those ought to be removed, just so we don't get all benches. And not that you're gonna do that, but again, this is written for whoever in the future might develop it.
Linda, is it as easy as eliminating one of the options, or is it something where we should just put the language you just said?
Well, I think we can just say that you can't have all benches because actually a bench with a pergola is a pretty nice thing. So I think we could leave that in there, and we could leave in the 2 benches. But I think, we're not going to do 2 benches, a bench and a pergola, and then a third thing there. I think you're going to get a garden or a dog park and a pickleball court. So I think Matt, maybe there's a way that you can.
Yeah, we could just say one of the following.
Just say one of the following, yeah. And it's not all benches.
Yeah, one of the
No-
following, a
no more
bench with a
than one of the-
pergola or a bench,
Right.
something, and
Right.
then another one, or whatever.
No more.
However you choose to word it, just so we don't get,
That's the fewest
benches.
words, no more than one of the following.
Yeah, one
Huh?
each or
What
or something, yes.
Nope, no more
do you
than
have
one.
anything, Kristen? I didn't mean to jump
Did
in there.
did I say it the other way? No more than one of the amenities can be, yeah. Right, right. Right, quantity's the same.
You
It's just-
turn on your
That's an
microphone,
option,
Kristen.
either or, you can't do both. I understand.
Or if you had 4, you could do 2 of the bench things and 2 other things. I mean, you're not going to stop us from adding more than.
Oh, no.
three
No, not at
things.
all.
More amenities are definitely better than fewer.
Right.
Yeah.
We just don't want them to just be benches.
Yep, that's okay.
We can make a change like that.
Okay. Staff have any thoughts, or?
Yeah, if that's going to be a condition of a positive recommendation, I think we should take a minute or 2 to just formulate that in a clear way. So we're okay if there's a 30-second pause to formulate that.
Okay, let's find the areas then. I know one of them was on page 11.
Yep. One's on 11 and then it carries over to page 12. So you have
Okay,
the
yeah, in 11.
courtyard homes. Yeah.
Right, at
courtyard
the
homes
bottom
are
of
on page
11, the courtyard will provide 3,
Mhm.
and we should put 2 can't be benches.
Well,
Or-
I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Or
I'm
what-
sure
yeah,
we can
yeah.
wordsmith it, and Lauren can grade our paper, and ultimately,
Yeah, and
I
then in
think
the second
Ms.
one on,
Baljarik's going to be
yeah, on
looking at
9.2, it says the townhome area shall provide 2, and that one, again, could just be 2 benches, so however,
this won't be hard, but it would be better if it wasn't on the fly.
that's fine.
I understand the intention.
Yeah, and I think everybody agrees with it, it's just. I'll try to figure out a way to word it.
All right, if you're going to formulate the motion, we'll do that. I wasn't aware previously of the concern raised earlier today on parking, which is a good thing to make certain doesn't happen. The areas where there was that parking concern are, include some really nice outdoor dining areas in the, how was it termed here, the Exhibit D, the Village Hub character exhibits. I would hate to have seen parking there instead of any of those things, because that would come off as a really bad bait and switch, because those are really nice, and I remain concerned. And the building you reference is comparable that I mentioned, that's where I visit my vision specialist. I'm also going for some regular PT in a nearby office in Carmel. I've been driving by that place twice a week, every week for quite a while now, looking at it. I'd like to see a better presentation than that particular one, which is not bad, but this, in the character exhibits, is vastly superior. So we need to make sure that we've obviously got some of those character exhibit things from the Exhibit D as opposed to any kind of car or vehicle. So, any other thoughts or comments? And if not,
I think
we'll-
this improved a lot through
ahead.
the workshop process, and so thank you to staff for providing us that format, and to the petitioner's entire team for listening and participating with us so actively and taking to heart all the suggestions and improving this. Kudos to everybody that made this come to this point. I don't know that we could have done it in a standard meeting format. It would have been kind of painful. That worked out really well in the workshops, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'd agree with what Andre said. This project is, my opinion, much improved from what was first presented a year and a half ago. And I think the incorporation of the EPCON folks into this project is really just, has upped the game considerably. So thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kristen. Sure.
Thank you. Matt, could you just clarify where the black fence and the landscaping is going along Town Road? I was struggling a little bit in the PUD on exactly, is it going the full length?
So,
Like there was some language.
do you want to respond to this? I didn't commit that to memory.
I mean, I saw the illustration, which I liked. I just want to make sure that that's what's in writing and clear.
So we're extending the black fence down along the EPCON portion. And then when we get to portion 4, the Village Hub, we are not extending that fence only because we want to highlight all of the outdoor patio areas, the seating and whatnot in front of the Village Hub area. So the fence will stop where the residential stops. And then the rest of this kind of along here will not have the black fence as it goes over. That's what I understand. Yeah, it goes along the boulevard to the west.
Yeah, it'll turn into here. The plan is to turn it into this area. And then I think Lifetime, the trailhead, have you seen the trailhead exhibit? So it incorporates those elements as well. It's not a black horse fence. They've shown it as a white fence, but I'm sure that changing the color of a fence if it was necessary is something that they can discuss if it's important.
Well, I think having a consistent color would probably be very nice. I mean, that's not a problem.
He's good, he's good.
Okay, fantastic. So I understand highlighting the patios and, but did we write that into the PUD that that'll definitely be a patio area in front of those? Because you don't really have a tenant yet, do you?
No.
We
And-
don't.
oh, go ahead.
We don't have tenants yet, but I will tell you that the front of those buildings that face Town Road, we want to highlight a lot of the character exhibits that you brought up. I mean, that's the vision that we have for the whole front along Town Road. And so we viewed the fence as kind of a separation between the residential and the commercial. And that's why it will come down on 3, and then it'll actually go west to create a little bit more separation. But we want to highlight that outdoor patio, the character of the buildings themselves, the architecture of the buildings, versus having that fence can be almost 4 feet tall. As you're driving by, we wanted to highlight the building itself.
What is the buffer somewhat then between, I know we'll have the walking path. I mean, if you do have patios out there, you need some type of buffer from the the traffic. People are going pretty fast down through there. So talk to me about your vision a little bit on that.
I'll let him do that. From a technical perspective, your building foundation landscaping requirements where there aren't exceptions are what would be required. I mean, the idea is to feature the front of those. I mean, it can have a 0 setback. That's very intentional. And so the fence can go right up to the public right-of-way, like the fence around the patio area. But I'll let you want to talk about your vision?
Yeah, when people drive through here, certainly there'll be the sidewalk buffer, and then there'll be a landscaping buffer. But we don't want it to be, we want it to be somewhat of a buffer in terms of distance, but we want it to feel completely integrated. So if somebody's driving their bike down the path or somebody's driving, we want them to look over and see really cool activity. So if somebody's outside having lunch, or if they're out having coffee, having a meeting, we want to try to integrate whoever's at those buildings with the traffic. And when I say traffic, they'll certainly be buffered away from the cars from a distance standpoint. But we wanted to try to integrate that feeling, not create separation.
Okay. Do we feel like that's all in writing in the PUD? I guess I was just struggling with this section. Maybe I'm the only one that was.
So what's in there?
Struggling with that.
So the foundation plantings are what would be required along there. Any other, there's no intention to buffer, I mean, to create a visual block or screen at all. Now there will be, just from a commonsensical perspective, you want a pleasant place for people to spend time outside, or they're not going to spend time there. So, but no, I don't think I've ever dealt with anybody regulating our planters and things.
I'm just asking, is that in there? Are these planters and this idea of all this in the PUD?
landscaping
What you're
requirements
speaking
are
of,
in
is it in?
Right, the foundational.
The landscaping requirements are in there, but no, how they choose to decorate their patio is not in there.
Yeah, okay. And then the other question I had is, there'd been discussion about the millers and having them write something in regards to their buffer. Did we ever get that? It wasn't attached tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't have it yet, but we will. I meant to bring that up earlier, thank you. I was on the phone with him as recently as before this meeting, and so we expect to be able to address that between now and the council meeting. That's where we were requested to do that.
I'm sorry, so you'll be presenting a letter of their
That's our
agreement
intention, yes.
before this goes to council? Okay.
We would anticipate some demonstration of their support, yes, and it may come in the
Okay.
form of a letter.
So, question for staff, is that something that we should include in the motion?
It's default part of it because the mayor-elect on the record asked us to do that, and we said we would. So you can do what you want, but I don't know how many layers of.
Okay, no, I just.
Well, we had
wondered.
asked as this body as well, so
Understand.
it's not here tonight, and you'd like a recommendation. So, I mean, I know Victor's in the audience tonight, but I specifically remember him, talking about that as well. So, I don't know how we want to handle that. And the last thing, it's a minor thing for staff, but I think that the city council page needs to be updated on this particular PUD.
Oh, yeah, it probably does. Thanks.
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone? Have you formulated a motion?
Oh.
Yeah, and just,
Okay.
I think you had volunteered to do that.
I'm just keeping track over here. I heard a recommendation for some form of parking lot layout confirmation, the quantity of amenities, specifically benches, and I'm assuming the sunset clause. That wasn't stated directly, but it's been inferred.
Right.
Those are the three that I have notes of. So, in the signature page,
What's the signature page?
updating the signature page in the ordinance.
It doesn't matter for us.
Okay,
It would obviously have to be updated to get it approved by council.
okay. Well, I'll take a stab at it. Would send a positive recommendation to the city council for 2310 PUD-11, Town Run PUD, with the addition of wording stating that the parking lot will be behind the two commercial stores on Town Road. And that in the two sections on page 11 and 12 for the amenities, there will not be allowed to be, two of the amenities will not allowed to be benches, not be allowed to be benches. Is that,
Those two items plus the sunset
there
clause.
can be no more than one bench in either of these
We'll
areas.
put language together if you're okay with it.
Yeah, whatever
and
staff
Lauren will-
decides is fine with me.
Yep.
I think that the,
My concept is just list them and put those two on the same line and say, want either or.
that would be fine, yeah.
Okay.
And then the sunset.
And the sunset clause.
And the sunset clause. And
5 years.
5 years is what you
Yes.
suggested? Okay.
All right, so we have a motion that I think we've all heard and hopefully understand. Is there a second for that motion? Second. I think I heard it from Dave Schmitz first. Line up for the next one. So we have a motion from Dr. Kelleher, seconded by Dave Schmitz. If staff could please call the roll.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Johns,
Yes.
Ms. Kelleher,
Yes,
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Ms. Voljerick,
Yes.
and Ms. Berkman.
Yes.
The favorable recommendation passes.
Excellent. You don't have to wait till next year. You can go out there and start tomorrow. We've been waiting a long time for this. I'm pumped and ready.
Thank
I'd
you
really
very
like
much
to see
for
it.
all your help throughout the whole process and your comments.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, our third item of business for this evening is PUD, there's petition number 2310-PUD-13, the Wheeler Landing PUD Amendment 8. Staff can summarize, and then we'll hear from the petitioner.
Thank you, President, members of the commission. For the record, Caleb Ernest with the Community Development Department. This item is an amendment to the Wheeler Landing PUD. This item was last before you at the workshop meeting on October 16th. Since that meeting, the petitioner has made revisions based on the comments at the workshop meeting, which can be reviewed in my staff report. In short, they are in relation to the architecture, parking, and ordinance exhibits. This item is up for recommendation tonight. The petitioner is here tonight. Would like to make a brief presentation. Both he and I are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Good evening. For the record, Russell Brown with the law firm of Clark Quinn, 320 North Meridian Street, Suite 1100 in Indianapolis. And I promise to be brief. The goal of our edits were a couple things. One was, to Dr. Kelleher's point, to confirm what we show in the pretty pictures is included in the text. And so we've tried to do that through either referring specifically to the concept plan, for example, on the dormers, as shown on the concept plan. We have incorporated requirements for dormers on the villas, on the single story, on the internal streets. So we've tried to do that where those architectural features were things that we spoke about being a selling feature. We've added a new exhibit that shows it's Exhibit E. One more, there we go. To try to show the calculations as it relates to brick facade or masonry facade coverage for those. There was a lot of discussion about, I believe Mr. Maui talked about making it make sense And so we tried to visually show you what it would look like based on those percentages. So tried to, and again, tie it into the ordinance that it would be in substantial conformance with this presentation. So tried to put words and paper together to show you what we plan to do and to tie us to doing that. We also included in there, for example, that each end unit in these villas would have a chimney and it would be masonry covered. So again, trying to comply with some of those. The other thing that we added to the ordinance, which was not in a previous version, related to parking specifically for the villas. There was questions about making sure that those driveways were long enough to park a vehicle in, so we've added a length requirement for those parking requirements for those driveways. Also just clarified that both the driveway and the garage count as parking spaces for the overall parking requirement. So those were the additions that we made. Hopefully that addresses the concerns that we related to. We did update the site plan and the concept plan there was a typo, I think, on the number of covered garage spaces that were anticipated, but we also capped that so that we couldn't go through and add a bunch more. That was a question that was brought up as well. And then we clarified, we corrected an error in what is Exhibit D as it relates to coverage percentages on those facades. So all rear facades of the garden homes will be 75% masonry covered, excluding the covered patio. But that is a change from what was previously before you. So I tried to incorporate or be mindful of those comments. We would consent to the addition of a 5-year sunset clause into this as the other petitions before you have as well. So with that, happy to answer questions, but otherwise would request your favorable recommendation of this petition to the council.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments for staff or the petitioner? I'm thinking you're going to get off easy.
I've been here a lot of times. I don't know that I've ever gotten off with any follow-up questions. So
You haven't.
Yeah, it's probably unlikely. So I like this location for this site for this better than where we last talked about it. I think you've done what needed to happen here, and that's why we're ready to move on with a recommendation. So, having said that, is there a motion regarding the petition here for council?
I would do it, but it's, somebody else has to step
Well,
up.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Brown. We talked to the last petitioner as well, but through the workshop, I mean, you addressed everything. So thank you. Thank you to all of you. Do you want me to do the recommendation too?
Since you have your microphone on, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Right. Okay, I'll have to get myself together here. Okay, I will recommend a positive recommendation for 2310-PUD-13 to the City Council, the Wheeler Landing PUD Amendment 8.
Thank you. We have a motion from Kristen Berkman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
do you need to include the addition of the sunset?
In addition to the motion, to the positive recommendation, I would like to move that the 5-year sunset clause is added to this petition.
All right. Favorable recommendation with one additional comment. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Cindy Spoljaric. Staff will please call the roll.
Mr. Horke,
Yes.
Mr. Johns,
Yes.
Ms. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mr. Maui,
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz,
Yes.
Ms. Spoljaric,
Yes.
and Ms. Berkman.
Yes.
Favorable recommendation passes.
Kudos. Thank you. That completes our items of business for this meeting. There are no public hearings. There is one miscellaneous item that has 2 different approvals to it, the calendar for 2024 Plan Commission meeting and for the Plat Committee which hopefully will get much busier next year than it has been in this first year of operation. So if there aren't any questions or comments for staff or each other regarding the two meeting date exhibits, we approve them together, or should they be separate? Or I think it's, I'm looking at it, could be one item and it could be a voice vote. We're not really.
Yes. Yeah, just be specific in the motion
Reference
that
both of
includes
them.
both calendars.
Yeah.
And we can just do
Okay.
it in one sweep.
I had a question that got answered already. I had been not aware of a change. As far as I'm concerned, they both look good. So is there a motion to accept these two calendars for 2024?
So moved.
We have a motion from Cindy Spoljarek to approve the calendars for Plan Commission and Plat Committee. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Andre Maui. There you are. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed or abstaining? Calendars are accepted. Other items on the agenda are continued into 2024, probably, unless the Spring Mill Center PUD comes back sooner. Taking us then to reports and comments. Is there anything from fellow Plan Commission members for each other?
I just have one thing. We've dealt with a lot of subdivisions, and we've asked for some larger lots in some. And I wanted to let you know that if you're in the mood for a nice drive, you should go up 421 to Hinkey's new development, which is about 5 miles north of everything, out in the middle of nowhere. And he has anywhere from 2 to 5 acre lots. And they are selling for anywhere from $575,000 to $1.3 million, and there are houses on them. So it's not impossible for us to have something like that somewhere.
It conveniently had a really nice lake to surround as well,
Yeah, they do.
making the
But
values
anyway,
a little
I'll
more
pass that if in doubt.
understandable.
And I'm blocking on the name of it. What is the name of it?
I'm drawing a blank on it as
Is
well.
that Holiday?
No, it's not Holiday.
It's
That's,
way up.
this is further
almost
north.
Lebanon.
Oh, shoot, I know it.
Well,
Starts with a P.
Lebanon
Oh,
is
yeah.
much further west. This is north of 32 by,
Something like that. Anyway, if you want to go out for a drive, none of us, I don't think, can afford a lot
That's what
up
I
there,
wanted to say
but
first. It's not.
just to let people know that way out in the middle of nowhere, without any water and sewer, they are
Yeah, I've seen
doing
it.
that.
I haven't seen the map, but I've driven out there a few times.
Pardon me?
No, that's not us.
Nope.
Wait,
No.
can I mark some of these?
Oh, well, I'll think of it before the evening is over. But I just thought I'd pass it around, let you know that there are people who want bigger lots. And I'm not into building $5 million houses, but there is a place for that. We have certainly a lot of groups of other priced houses that are available, and this certainly helps school systems. That was it.
okay.
Real quick comment, the discussion we had for that Wheeler Landing PUD amendment about brick making sense, it occurred to me after the last meeting when we talked about that. We all tend to, we know it when we see it, but then how do you verbalize it? One of the things for me that's a simple kind of criteria is the masonry shouldn't stop and start at an exterior corner. That's one of the keys of, hey, this is just a tacked on facade. So when it wraps to an inside corner, that's one of the things that make it make more sense. So I had that realization after the meeting. I just wanted to share that. That's,
What'd you say at the beginning? You said it shouldn't what?
shouldn't stop at an exterior corner.
Okay.
I think when
Be
you were
the
just trying
same.
to describe what would make sense, it's not, we don't want a storefront where it
Right.
front stops. Whatever design should wrap around a corner and not,
And it can stop and start at an inside corner because it does look like a transition of building type, building construction, whatever, and it does make visual sense there, just not an exterior corner. That makes it look like the facade.
And without masonry turning the corner to have something to interlock to, it's not really as
Right.
well-built a wall, so.
Just as we try to put it in words, because that does come up sometimes, so throw that out there.
Concur. All right. I think we are to the point of looking for a city council update.
We did not have our second meeting of the month,
Oh,
so
that's
we
true, I
will be
did notice
meeting Monday.
So, no update there, and there was no BZA meeting either, correct? And there wasn't a plat committee meeting, so golly, we breezed through those nicely. Community Development Department, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Nothing to add this evening.
Nothing to add, really?
Yeah.
All right, crushes me to ask this, then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion from Cindy Spoljarek to call an end to tonight's festivities. Is there a second?
Second.
Dave Schmitz. Motioned and seconded. Everybody in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Anybody that wants to continue, say nay. We're adjourned at 7:46.
Promontory, is that it?